Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Cheating Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Christmas Eve Revelation. Major Clint Bentley sat straight-backed in the metal chair at Fort Bragg's command center, his muscled frame tense as he signed the final papers of his deployment. The debriefing room buzzed with the quiet efficiency of military operations, but his mind focused on the small jewelry box in his pocket. The diamond necklace represented 3 months of combat pay, a gift from Mercedes, who'd managed their home during his 3-year deployment. Colonel Richards reviewed the stack of documents with meticulous attention. Your service record speaks for itself, Major. 37 successful high-risk operations. 12 enemy compounds neutralized. For deep cover infiltrations that saved hundreds of American lives. Just doing my duty, sir, Clint responded, his voice carrying the quiet authority that had commanded men through the world's most dangerous missions. The Shadow, Richards mused, using the nickname that had become legend in Special Forces circles. They still talk about how you eliminated that terrorist cell in complete darkness. No night vision. No thermal imaging. Just pure instinct and training. Sometimes darkness is our best ally, sir. Richards nodded, understanding the layers in that statement. Your transport to the civilian terminal is ready. Unless there's anything else? No, sir. Time to return to my real mission, being a father. The drive from base gave Clint time to review his mental checklist. Grace would be 5 now, kindergarten age. The last video call 6 months ago showed her twirling in a pink tutu, her golden curls bouncing as she showed off her ballet moves. Mercedes had seemed distracted during that call, but 3 years of separation put strain on any marriage. His rental car turned into the familiar neighborhood where Christmas decorations adorned every house. The December snow blanketed lawns and rooftops, creating a scene worthy of a holiday card. Mercedes always insisted on decorating early, one of her many traditions that had sparked playful arguments throughout their marriage. Movement caught his attention. Diane Ball, his neighbor for 7 years, stood in her driveway with a snow shovel. The moment she spotted his car, her reaction triggered combat instinct he developed. The shovel fell from nerveless fingers. Her face drained of color. Her body language screamed fear and guilt. "Everything okay, Diane?" Clint called out, his tone friendly but his mind cataloging detail of her strange response. "Clint." Her voice trembled as if addressing a ghost. You're alive?" The odd comment raised immediate red flags, but before he could investigate further, Diane practically ran inside her house, leaving the shovel abandoned in the snow. The tactical part of Clint's brain, the part that had kept him alive through countless missions, began analyzing possible scenarios. He approached his front door, the diamond necklace feeling heavier with each step. The doorbell chime brought unfamiliar footsteps, and a young woman he'd never seen before answered. She wore casual clothes and carried herself with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in the house. "Can I help you?" she asked, blocking the entrance with her body. Before Clint could respond, a high-pitched squeal of delight pierced the air. "Daddy!" Grace darted past the babysitter, launching herself through the air. Clint caught her automatically, his military reflexes serving a gentler purpose than usual. His daughter wore a new Christmas dress, red velvet with white trim, and her golden curls bounced with each excited movement. She peppered his face with kisses, her small arms wrapped around his neck with desperate strength. "My little princess," Clint breathed, holding her close and memorizing every detail. "I've missed you so much. I missed you too. I'm in kindergarten now." Grace beamed up at him, her blue eyes, so like his own, sparkling with joy. "Mrs. Thompson says I'm the best reader in class." The babysitter shifted uncomfortably, phone clutched in her hand. "I should call Mrs. Bentley." "Where is Mommy?" Clint asked Grace, maintaining his gentle tone while registering the sitter's nervous behavior and half-hidden phone. Grace's innocent response hit him with more force than any explosion he'd survived. "Oh, she's shopping with Uncle Mike. They're moving to Hawaii tomorrow." Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, unaware of the devastation she delivered. "Mommy told everyone you died being a hero, But I heard her tell Uncle Mike you were just a fool who'd never find out. The final twist of the knife came with childlike innocence. She said I have to call Mike my new daddy now. 3 years of Special Forces training kept Clint's expression neutral as rage burned through his veins. Michael Mueller, his best friend since college, business partner in their security firm, and the man he trusted to protect his family during deployment. The betrayal activated the cold, calculating part of his mind that had earned him his nickname. "Katie, you can go home," he told the babysitter, his tone carrying the same authority that had commanded elite soldiers. "I'll take care of my daughter now." But Mrs. Bentley said, "Katie," one word, spoken softly but with unmistakable command. "Go home." The babysitter grabbed her coat and fled, nearly forgetting her purse in her haste to escape the tension she sensed but didn't understand. Clint turned his attention back to Grace, letting her excited chatter wash over him while his trained eyes assessed his surroundings. The house told its own story to his experienced gaze. Family photos missing from walls, leaving lighter rectangles on the paint. Boxes poorly concealed behind furniture. The entire space had an artificial feel, like a staged home ready for showing or abandonment. "Want to see my room, Daddy? I got new toys for Christmas already." Grace led him upstairs, pointing out her artwork and school projects. Her room revealed more evidence of the planned betrayal. New suitcases tucked in her closet, drawers partially emptied, a globe on her desk with Hawaii circled in red marker. And there, partially hidden under schoolwork, airline tickets to Honolulu dated for December 26th, 3 tickets, not just for Mercedes and Grace, but for Mike as well. "Daddy, why do you look so serious?" Grace asked, her perceptiveness reminding him of himself. "Just thinking about all the bedtime stories I need to catch up on," Clint replied smoothly. "How about some hot chocolate while you tell me about kindergarten?" In the kitchen, Grace happily sipped cocoa and described her teacher and friends. Clint listened attentively, while his mind processed intelligence like he would on a mission. The diamond necklace in his pocket now felt like a lead weight, a symbol of loyalty about to be repaid with betrayal. He found more evidence in Mercedes' home office. Divorce papers dated 3 months ago bore his forged signature, giving her full custody of Grace. Bank statements showed systematic withdrawals, accounts emptied over months. They had planned everything meticulously, using the holiday chaos as cover for their escape, taking advantage of his deployment to create a new reality where he didn't exist. The tactician in him admired the operation's planning, while the husband and father in him burned with cold fury. His early return had disrupted their careful plans, giving him a chance to counter their betrayal. They thought they'd orchestrated the perfect escape. Instead, they'd walked into territory controlled by the shadow. The rest of the evening passed in a dance of normalcy and surveillance. Clint read Grace stories, helped her arrange her stuffed animals, and listened to her practice reading. Each moment strengthened his resolve. They hadn't just betrayed him. They'd tried to steal his daughter's future. As Grace finally drifted off to sleep, Clint stood in her doorway, watching her peaceful breathing. In combat, he'd earned his reputation through a combination of tactical brilliance and ruthless efficiency. Now those same skills would serve a different mission, protecting his daughter and destroying those who had betrayed them both. Chapter 2. The Betrayal's Depth. The days following Clint's Christmas Eve return revealed layers of betrayal that went far beyond a simple affair. Each conversation with neighbors and friends exposed new facets of Mercedes and Michael's deception, building a pattern that stretched back 18 months. Mrs. Peterson, a retired teacher who lived across the street, provided the first detailed insights during a carefully orchestrated conversation. "It started innocently enough," she explained, serving coffee in her kitchen while Clint listened intently. Mike would help Mercedes with household repairs, pick up Grace from school when Mercedes had real estate showings running late. "When did things change?" Clint asked, his tone casual but his attention razor-sharp. "About a year ago, I'd say. Mercedes started attending more evening showings. That's what she called them. Mike's car would be here until late at night. We all assumed." She trailed off, embarrassed. Tom Harrison, their next-door neighbor and a fellow veteran, proved more direct. "Look, brother, I should have said something. Mercedes was playing the grieving widow act for months, telling everyone you were MIA, then Kia. Mike was always there, shouldering his way in, acting like the devoted friend stepping up to help the family. The pattern emerged through dozens of similar conversations. Mercedes, whose real estate career had been thriving, had grown increasingly resentful of military life's constraints. Mike, always the smooth operator, had positioned himself as her confidant and support system. Clint's investigation revealed a betrayal far more comprehensive than he'd initially suspected. Mike had systematically embedded himself in every aspect of Clint's life during his deployment. The security consulting firm they'd built together had been gutted from within. Sarah Chen, their company's financial officer, met Clint in a quiet coffee shop away from the office. Her hands shook as she passed him folders of documentation. He convinced the other partners that buying out your shares was the only option, she explained. Said it was best for everyone since you were deployed indefinitely. The paperwork looked legitimate. He had power of attorney. Show me everything, Clint commanded, and Sarah laid out the systematic dismantling of his business interests. Bank records revealed a calculated strategy. Properties sold, investments liquidated, accounts drained. All legal on paper thanks to carefully forged documents and Mercedes' willing participation. Mike had used Clint's power of attorney to transfer company shares to shell corporations he controlled. Victoria Pitts, his longtime family lawyer, broke client confidentiality when confronted with evidence of fraud. She came to me about declaring you legally dead 6 months ago, Victoria admitted, unable to meet Clint's intense gaze. The paperwork was irregular, but she had supporting documents. Mike's security firm connections made everything appear legitimate. What kind of supporting documents? Military death notifications, deployment records, even some classified mission reports. I should have verified them more thoroughly, but they looked official. Mike's Pentagon contacts seemed to confirm everything. The betrayal extended beyond finances and legal matters. Dr. Lawrence Reed, their family therapist, had been building a case against Clint without ever evaluating him. Their meeting in Reed's office revealed another layer of the conspiracy. Mercedes brought Grace in for sessions, Dr. Reed explained, squirming under Clint's scrutiny. She expressed concerns about Grace's unhealthy attachment to her absent father. The goal was to help the child accept changes in the family structure. You diagnosed the child's relationship with her deployed father as unhealthy without ever speaking to me? Clint's voice carried a dangerous edge that made Reed pale. There were reports, documented incidents of behavioral issues. Mercedes provided evidence of your instability. Fabricated evidence, Clint corrected. Part of a systematic attempt to erase me from my daughter's life. Each revelation added fuel to the rage burning in Clint's chest, but his exterior remained calm and calculated. The same skills that had earned him the nickname the Shadow in combat now served a different purpose, gathering intelligence and preparing for war on the home front. Their plan became clearer with each piece of information. Mercedes and Mike had spent months building an alternate reality where Clint was dead, using his deployment as cover. They had systematically alienated his allies, consolidated their control over his assets, and prepared to disappear with his daughter. The Hawaii move was particularly clever, using the holiday chaos as cover, taking advantage of reduced staffing and increased travel confusion. They had planned every detail, from Grace's school transfer papers to new identities waiting in the islands. What they hadn't counted on was facing an opponent trained to uncover exactly these kinds of operations. Document they'd forged, lie they'd told, asset they'd stolen left a trail. And the Shadow was expert at following trails in the dark. Chapter 3. The First Move. With the full scope of the betrayal mapped out, Clint began assembling his forces with the same precision he'd used in combat operations. His first call was to Derek Mayer, a former teammate who transitioned into private intelligence work after an injury ended his field career. I need everything, Clint instructed during a secure call. Bank records, phone logs, surveillance. Every move they've made in the last 18 months. Consider it done, Derek replied, his typing audible in the background. I've still got contacts in all the right places. We'll document everything. Focus on Mike's Pentagon connections first. He's been accessing classified information. Jesus, Derek breathed. That opens up a whole new angle. I'll get my best people on it. The evidence Derek uncovered painted a damning picture. Mercedes and Mike had spent months building their escape plan, using the holiday season as cover. The Hawaii move was just the first step. Offshore accounts and international connections suggested a larger scheme. Sharon Bowers, a divorce attorney known for handling military cases, became Clint's next ally. Her office, decorated with military memorabilia and law degrees, suited her reputation for ruthlessness that had earned her the nickname the Barracuda. "This isn't just a divorce case," Sharon observed, reviewing the evidence spread across her desk. "They tried to erase you completely, legally, financially, even from your daughter's memory. This is criminal conspiracy." "I need someone who understands what's at stake," Clint replied. "Someone willing to go to war." "Major, I've handled hundreds of military divorces. Cheating spouses, hidden assets, custody battles. I've seen it all. But this..." She gestured at the documents. "This is different. They didn't just betray you. They betrayed everything the uniform stands for." The most crucial alliance came from FBI agent Nathaniel Tanner. The former Ranger connected immediately with the situation during their meeting in a secure FBI office. "The fraudulent financial dealings cross state lines," Tanner noted, organizing evidence into categories. "The attempt to have you declared dead while on active duty makes it federal. We can build a RICO case around this. I need everything by the book," Clint specified. "When we move, I want it airtight. These forged military documents alone are enough for federal charges," Tanner confirmed. "Add in the financial fraud, the custody manipulation. We'll take them down hard." Clint's tactical mind worked through contingencies as his team assembled. Each piece of evidence was carefully documented and verified. Each witness statement was recorded and notarized. The final piece clicked into place when Derek's team discovered irregularities in the security firm's contracts. Mike hadn't just betrayed Clint personally. He'd used their company's legitimate military contracts as cover for something far more sinister. "He's been selling classified information," Derek reported during an encrypted video call. "Security protocols, base layouts, personnel data. The Hawaii move isn't just about running away with your wife. They're planning to meet foreign contacts." "Show me." Derek shared his screen, displaying evidence of systematic security breaches. "He used your credentials to access classified databases. Started small, perimeter security details, patrol schedules, built up to more sensitive information over time." The revelation transformed a personal betrayal into a matter of national security. Clint's combat experience had taught him to identify and exploit enemy weaknesses. Now, those same skills would serve to protect not just his family, but his country. As Christmas Day approached, Clint maintained his routine with grace, never letting her sense the storm gathering around them. He read her stories, helped with crafts, and created new memories to replace the 3 years he'd missed. Each moment with her strengthened his resolve to protect her future. Mercedes and Mike remained unaware that their carefully laid plans were unraveling. Each call they made, each meeting they held, every document they prepared was monitored and documented. They thought they were orchestrating an escape. Instead, they were building the case for their own destruction. The Shadow hadn't earned his reputation through mercy to enemies. Those who had betrayed him would learn why that nickname inspired fear in the world's most dangerous places. They had tried to destroy him while he defended his country. Now they would face the consequences of their choices. Clint sat in his office late that night, examining the forged divorce papers one last time. The diamond necklace he'd brought home from Mercedes lay on his desk, a symbol of devotion turned to ash. His phone lit up with a message from Derek. "All assets tracked. Surveillance in place. Teams ready." He sent a simple reply. "Initiate." The war for his daughter was about to begin. Mike and Mercedes thought they had orchestrated the perfect escape, planned every detail down to the minute. They didn't realize they were facing an opponent who had made his reputation by turning enemies' plans against them. As Christmas Day drew to a close, Clint looked in on Grace sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm about to break. He'd protected his country in the world's darkest places. Now he would protect his daughter with the same ruthless efficiency. The trap was set. The evidence was gathered. The teams were in position. Mike and Mercedes thought they were heading to paradise. Instead, they had sealed their own fate. The Shadow was home, and darkness was about to fall. Chapter 4. Opening Salvos. December 26th dawned with Mercedes Dillon Bentley returning from another secret meeting with Mike Mueller. She entered her kitchen, arms laden with shopping bags, props for her cover story, and froze. Major Clint Bentley sat at the table, divorce papers spread before him. "Hawaii's beautiful this time of year," he said softly, his voice carrying the same quiet authority that had commanded elite soldiers. "But Grace starts school again next week. She'd hate to miss it." The shopping bag slipped from Mercedes' nerveless fingers. "Clint, I can explain. The forged divorce papers?" He tapped the documents with one finger. "The attempts to have me declared dead? Or perhaps you'd like to explain the classified documents Mike's been selling." Mercedes' face drained of color. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No." Clint's eyes held the cold focus his enemies had learned to fear. "Then let's discuss what I do know. You and Mike planned to disappear with my daughter while I defended this country. You forged documents, stole my assets, and tried to erase me from Grace's life. You were never here." Mercedes' composure cracked. 3 years, Clint. 3 years of deployments, of never knowing if you were alive or dead. Mike was here. He helped with Grace with the how? With emptying our bank accounts? Clint's voice remained deadly calm. With selling classified military information? The blood drained from Mercedes' face. "What are you talking about?" "You'll find out soon enough." Clint stood, his movement making Mercedes step back instinctively. "Grace stays with me. The FBI will be in touch about the money laundering charges." "Money laundering? I'm a real estate agent who's been helping Mike clean profits from selling military secrets." Clint moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing." He placed the diamond necklace he'd brought home on the table. "I bought this with combat pay. Consider it your 30 pieces of silver." The confrontation set the tone for the months that followed. Clint moved with the same precision that had made him legendary in special forces. "Sir, we've secured access to all their accounts," Agent Tanner reported the next day, sliding a folder across his desk. "Transaction, transfer, attempt to hide assets. We've got it all documented." Clint examined the financial records. 3 separate offshore accounts under false names. Property deeds transferred through shell companies. A systematic dismantling of his life's work. The SEC investigation hit their security firm like a precision strike. Federal agents descended on the corporate headquarters while Clint watched through Derek's surveillance feed. "Mr. Mueller?" The lead investigator's voice crackled through the audio. "We need to discuss some irregularities in your financial statements." Mike's attempts to bluster his way through the investigation proved futile. Each question exposed another layer of fraud, another betrayal of trust. "These share transfers," the investigator noted, "they bear Major Bentley's signature, but the dates don't match his deployment records." "He gave me power of attorney," Mike protested, sweat beading on his forehead. "Everything was legal." "Was it?" The investigator placed another document on the table. "Because we have Major Bentley's actual power of attorney document right here. The one you used is a forgery." In their church community, where Mercedes had cultivated her image as the devoted military wife, evidence of the affair spread strategically. Anonymous emails containing security camera footage from hotel meetings. Credit card statements showing intimate dinners while she claimed to be at real estate showings. "Did you hear?" Mrs. Thompson whispered to her prayer group. "All those times Mercedes said she was showing houses late at night." "And poor Grace," another member added. "Mercedes told us Clint was dead, made us all bring casseroles and everything." Grace remained Clint's primary focus. He documented interaction, meal, homework session. Dr. Josie Moore, a specialist in children of military families, provided expert guidance during their first session. "Grace shows remarkable resilience," Dr. Moore noted, reviewing her observations. "But she's confused about the contradicting stories she's heard." "What do you recommend?" Clint asked, his tactical mind already formulating strategies. "Stability. Routine. She needs to know she can trust what you tell her." Dr. Moore's assessment was professional but empathetic. "Document everything. Mercedes will likely try to challenge custody." Clint's former commanding officer, Colonel Barry McGee, provided devastating testimony about his character and service record. Major Bentley led 37 successful high-risk operations, McGee stated for the record. His judgment under pressure is unmatched. His dedication to his men and his mission exemplary, and his mental state during deployment? Sharon Bowers asked, building their case. Rock solid. The kind of leader others rely on when everything goes to hell. McGee's eyes narrowed. These allegations of PTSD and instability? They're not just false. They're an insult to every soldier who serves. Mercedes' attempts to paint Clint as unstable backfired spectacularly. Dr. Moore's reports showed Grace thriving under his care, while Mercedes' own behavior raised serious concerns. Grace's academic performance has improved significantly, Grace's kindergarten teacher reported during a documented meeting. She's more focused, more confident. The stability in her home life with her father has made a remarkable difference. Each move Clint made was calculated for maximum impact with minimum visibility. Bank accounts frozen through legal channels. Business contracts scrutinized by regulatory agencies. The pressure built systematically, professionally, inexorably. Sharon Bowers proved her Barracuda reputation well-earned. Your wife's attempts to have you declared dead while on active duty? She smiled grimly during a strategy session. That's not just fraud, it's a federal offense. Every judge in the circuit will view her custody claims through that lens. The documentation of Mercedes' betrayal grew daily. Security footage from hotels. Bank statements showing hidden accounts. Witness statements from neighbors who'd seen the affair unfold. Remember, Clint instructed his team during a secure briefing. Everything by the book. When we move, I want it bulletproof. Grace adapted to her new routine with remarkable resilience. Each evening, Clint helped with homework, cooked dinner, maintained the stability she desperately needed. If she noticed the surveillance teams watching the house, the security measures ensuring her safety, she never mentioned it. Daddy, she asked one evening over dinner, are we still going to Hawaii? No, Princess, he replied, his voice gentle but firm. Your school is here, your friends are here. This is our home. The pieces were falling into place. Mercedes' carefully constructed lies crumbled under professional scrutiny. Mike's financial house of cards teetered on the edge of collapse. But Clint knew from combat experience, a cornered enemy was often the most dangerous. Each night, after Grace slept securely in her bed, Clint reviewed intelligence reports with the same attention he'd given mission briefings. Phone transcripts showed Mercedes and Mike growing increasingly desperate. Their planned escape to Hawaii had been just the beginning. Evidence pointed to larger schemes, deeper betrayals. Sir, Agent Tanner reported during a late-night briefing, we've found irregularities in the firm's classified contracts. Mueller's been accessing restricted data. Clint's expression didn't change, but his eyes carried the cold focus his enemies had learned to fear. Document everything. Build the case. When we move, we end this permanently. The first phase of his operation proceeded. Each piece of evidence carefully preserved, each witness statement properly documented, each legal motion filed with exacting attention to detail. You've built an impressive case, Sharon observed, reviewing their progress in her office. Most men in your position would have reacted emotionally, given them room to counterattack. You've been tactical, Clint finished. This isn't about emotion. This is about justice. The coming storm gathered force, but in true Special Forces fashion, the target never saw it approaching. Mercedes and Mike continued their planning, unaware that each move they made strengthened the case against them. Chapter 5. The Counterattack. Mike and Mercedes launched their counteroffensive with the desperate energy of cornered prey. Their first move targeted Clint's reputation in the business community. Major Bentley's extended deployments have left him disconnected from civilian business realities. Mike addressed the security firm's board of directors, his confidence masking growing desperation. His recent behavior, his paranoid accusations, they raised serious concerns about his stability. Board members shifted uncomfortably in their leather chairs, years of trusting Mike making them receptive to his insinuations. The chairman cleared his throat, preparing to speak. The boardroom door opened. Sharon Bowers strode in, briefcase in hand. Gentlemen, she announced, placing documents before each board member. These are copies of forged transfer documents Mr. Mueller used to steal Major Bentley's shares. Note the dates. All while the Major was deployed, defending this country. Mike's face reddened. This is ridiculous. I had power of attorney. A forged power of attorney, Sharon interrupted, producing more documents. Would you like to explain that to the SEC investigators waiting outside? Or shall we discuss the irregular access to classified military contracts? The board members' expressions shifted from uncertainty to anger as they reviewed the evidence. Mike's carefully constructed business empire began crumbling. Mercedes focused her attacks on the personal front, attempting to manipulate Grace with promises and subtle psychological warfare during their supervised visits. Mommy says we can live on the beach, Grace mentioned during dinner one evening, pushing her peas around the plate. She says you're keeping me prisoner here. Clint maintained his composure, remembering Dr. Moore's advice about stability and trust. Do you feel like a prisoner, princess? Grace considered this seriously, her small face scrunched in thought. No. I get to see my friends and go to school and have my own room. But Mommy says you're sick from the war. Your mother is scared, Clint explained carefully. Sometimes when people are scared, they say things that aren't true. But you can always ask me anything, and I'll tell you the truth. Their biggest countermove came through Drew Patterson, a private investigator with a reputation for fabricating evidence. Patterson's surveillance of Clint began immediately, looking for any sign of instability or unfitness. Subject maintains rigid military schedule, Patterson reported to Mercedes in a coffee shop meeting. Up at 0500. Physical training. Takes daughter to school. Manages business interests. No signs of PTSD or stress behaviors. Mercedes slammed her hand on the table, drawing stares from other patrons. Look harder. There must be something we can use. Mrs. Bentley, Patterson leaned forward, lowering his voice. I've tracked hundreds of targets. Your husband. He's different. He spots my surveillance teams before they spot him. He's always 3 steps ahead. Patterson's attempts to create compromising situations backfired spectacularly. Every incident he documented had been anticipated and controlled. Your man Patterson, Derek reported to Clint, reviewing surveillance footage, tried to stage a confrontation at Grace's school. Our cameras recorded him paying 2 men to provoke you, and the men decided not to go through with it after seeing you. Apparently, your reputation preceded you. One of them literally said, I don't get paid enough to die. Mike's growing desperation led to his gravest miscalculation. Late one night in an empty parking garage, he approached Clint with 2 hired muscle men. The security cameras caught their approach, 3 men moving with false confidence toward a single figure standing motionless. This can all go away, Mike offered, his voice echoing in the concrete structure. Sign over the company, drop the investigations, let Mercedes have custody. Otherwise, he gestured to his companions. The security cameras mysteriously malfunctioned for the next 3 minutes. When they reactivated, Mike and his associates required immediate medical attention. 3 men were admitted to Metro General. Agent Tanner reported the next morning, sliding hospital reports across Clint's desk. Multiple fractures, concussions. No witnesses, no evidence. How unfortunate, Clint replied, not looking up from his intelligence reports. Perhaps they should be more careful in parking garages. Mike spent 2 weeks in the hospital, unable to prove who had attacked him, but the message was clear. The Shadow's reputation wasn't based on myth. Mercedes attempted to rally support from their social circle, but her efforts found increasingly unreceptive audiences. He's manipulating everyone, she protested to her prayer group, mascara smeared from tears. Using his military service to gain sympathy. Like you used his service to fake his death? Mrs. Thompson interrupted, standing up. While you were sleeping with his best friend. While you planned to kidnap his daughter. The community's judgment fell heavily on Mercedes. The devoted military wife image she'd cultivated crumbled under the weight of evidence. Each Sunday, more pews emptied around her until she sat alone. Grace's stability remained Clint's primary concern throughout the counterattacks. Each evening maintained its routine, homework, dinner, stories, unwavering consistency. Your daughter is thriving, Dr. Moore reported during their weekly session. She's processing the situation remarkably well, largely due to your stable presence. Her artwork no longer shows the anxiety indicators we saw initially. Mike's business associates began distancing themselves as the SEC investigation deepened. His attempts to freeze Clint out of local contracts backfired as his own financial irregularities came to light. The board has voted to suspend Mr. Mueller's access to all company accounts and facilities, the security firm's chairman announced during an emergency meeting. Pending federal investigation into financial improprieties, Patterson's attempts to gather evidence grew increasingly desperate. His surveillance teams found themselves under surveillance. His staged incidents were documented and exposed before they could occur. This isn't a man suffering from PTSD, Patterson finally admitted to Mercedes during their last meeting. This is a professional operator systematically dismantling every attack we launch. I'm done. Find someone else to commit suicide. Mercedes' attempts to turn Grace against her father foundered on the rock of consistent, stable parenting. Each manipulation attempt was met with calm discussion and honest answers. "Mommy says you're keeping her away from me," Grace said one evening during bath time. "Your mother made choices," Clint explained, helping her wash her hair. "Those choices have consequences. But you don't ever have to choose between loving her and loving me." The counterattacks faltered against Clint's strategic mind. Each move they made exposed them to new vulnerabilities. Each attack strengthened the case against them. Chapter 6. The Hidden Card. The true depth of Mike's betrayal emerged through careful intelligence gathering. During his deployment, Clint had noticed irregularities in classified security protocols, minor discrepancies that his tactical mind had filed away for future reference. "Agent Tanner," Clint said during a secure briefing at the FBI field office, "I need you to examine these access logs. Focus on Level 4 classified data about base security measures." Tanner spread the documents across the secure room's table. "What caught your attention?" "Timestamps. Access patterns. Mike's official meetings with military clients never matched the server access logs." Clint pointed to specific entries. He was pulling data when no legitimate business required it. Tanner's investigation revealed a pattern of systematic security breaches. Mike had used their firm's legitimate military contracts as cover for selling classified information to foreign interests. "The evidence is solid," Tanner confirmed, displaying surveillance photos of Mike meeting known foreign operatives. "He used your deployment as cover, accessing restricted data through company credentials. The money trail leads through shell companies to known hostile actors." The intelligence painted a damning picture. Mike hadn't just betrayed Clint personally, he'd compromised national security for profit. Mercedes' real estate transactions provided perfect cover, Derek explained, displaying financial records on a secure terminal. Property deals with inflated values, cash transactions through multiple accounts. Classic money laundering. "Show me the pattern," Clint ordered, his tactical mind assembling the pieces. Derek pulled up more records. Each time Mike accessed classified data, a property deal followed within days. The difference between actual value and sale price matches deposits to offshore accounts. Clint had documented everything, waiting for the precise moment to strike. The evidence was assembled with the same attention to detail he'd given combat operations. "The custody hearing is scheduled for next week," Sharon reported during a strategy session. "They're planning to present their evidence about your supposed instability." "Perfect," Clint replied, reviewing the final preparations. "That's when we spring the trap." The final pieces moved into position. FBI surveillance documented meeting, phone call, desperate attempt to escape the closing net. "Your wife may have been an unwitting participant in the espionage," Agent Tanner noted, preparing the arrest warrants. "But the money laundering makes her legally complicit." Grace remained protected from the gathering storm, her routine unchanged as the trap prepared to close. Each homework session, each bedtime story, each moment of stability built the foundation for her future security. The evidence was irrefutable. Classified documents traced to foreign agents. Financial records showing millions in hidden transactions. Surveillance footage of clandestine meetings with known intelligence operatives. Mike and Mercedes prepared their final attack, unaware they were walking into a carefully prepared ambush. Their evidence of Clint's supposed instability would never see the light of day. In his home office, Clint reviewed the operation one final time. Photos of Mike's meetings with foreign agents. Records of classified data breaches. Mercedes property transactions laundering the proceeds. Everything documented, verified, and ready. The trap was set. The documentation was bulletproof. The federal agents were in position. Mike and Mercedes thought they were about to destroy Clint's chances for custody. Instead, they had orchestrated their own downfall. Chapter 7. The Fall. Breaking news. Military contractor and accomplices arrested in major espionage case. The headline flashed across every major network as FBI agent Nathaniel Tanner approached the podium. Camera lights illuminated his Ranger's pin as he addressed the gathered press. At 0900 hours this morning, federal agents arrested Michael Mueller on charges of espionage, fraud, and conspiracy against the United States. Additionally, Mercedes Bentley was taken into custody as an accessory to these crimes. Reporters' hands shot up. Tanner pointed to CNN's military correspondent. Sources say this investigation began with a domestic dispute. Can you elaborate? This investigation revealed a complex criminal enterprise, Tanner replied. Mr. Mueller used his position at a military consulting firm to sell classified information to foreign actors. Mrs. Bentley's real estate business was used to launder the proceeds. In the federal courthouse holding cell, Mike Mueller's expensive suit had lost its crisp lines. His lawyer, James Davidson, reviewed the evidence files with growing concern. They have everything, Mike. Surveillance footage of meetings with known foreign operatives. Financial records showing millions in hidden transactions. Classified documents traced to your access credentials. Mike ran his hands through his disheveled hair. I can give them other names. Bigger players. Mr. Mueller. Agent Tanner entered the interview room, file folders under his arm. Let's discuss your options. Though I should warn you, they're limited. I know things. Mike leaned forward. Other contractors involved in similar operations. People you'd want to catch. Tanner opened the top folder, spreading photos across the table. These were taken 6 months ago. Here you are meeting Anton Petrov, known Russian intelligence officer. Here's the corresponding classified document access log from your computer. And here, he laid down bank statements, is the payment laundered through your partner's real estate company. That's circumstantial. Major Bentley documented everything. Mr. Mueller. Meeting. File access. Transaction. We don't need your cooperation. In another wing of the building, Mercedes faced her own interrogation. FBI agent Sarah Chen displayed contents from a safety deposit box registered under Mercedes' maiden name. 3 sets of passports with different identities. $2 million in bearer bonds. Travel documents for 6 different countries. Chen laid each item on the table. This wasn't just about Hawaii, was it, Mrs. Bentley? Mercedes stared at the evidence of her planned escape. Mike said we needed contingencies. He said with Clint's work, we might need to disappear if something went wrong. Let's discuss the property transfers. Chen opened another file. This house sold to Global Ventures Limited for $3 million. Market value was $800,000. The buyer's corporation traces back to known Chinese intelligence assets. That was Mike's client. He said they were foreign investors. Mercedes' composure cracked. Oh God. The inflated prices. The cash payments. He was using my business to launder money? Your signature is on every document, Mrs. Bentley. Your notary stamp on every deed. Did you really think this was normal business? The evidence mounted hourly. Financial forensics revealed a complex web of transactions. Properties sold to shell companies at inflated prices, cash payments routed through offshore accounts, all coinciding with Mike's sales of classified information. Mike's attempt to shift blame revealed his desperation. In the federal prosecutor's office, he tried a new strategy. Mercedes handled all the money, he claimed. I just introduced clients. If she was laundering funds, that's on her. I had no idea. Prosecutor Catherine Martinez pushed forward another stack of surveillance photos. 6 meetings with Chinese operatives. 4 with Russians. 2 with North Korean agents. All within weeks of accessing classified military installation data. Would you like to explain these, Mr. Mueller? I can help you catch bigger fish. Major Bentley already gave us the entire network. Your information is worthless. Mercedes' public breakdown came during her arraignment. Judge William Roberts read the charges: conspiracy to commit espionage, money laundering, accessory to theft of classified information. I didn't know. Mercedes screamed, her designer outfit contrasting with her handcuffs. Clint was never there. Mike said he would handle everything. He promised we'd be safe. Mrs. Bentley, Judge Roberts' voice cut through her hysteria. Control yourself, or you will be removed from this court. Grace remained insulated from the media circus, continuing her routine with Clint while the justice system processed her mother's betrayal. Dr. Moore met with them regularly. She's asking more questions, Clint reported during a session. About her mother, about Mike, about why everyone's talking about them on TV. You've maintained her stability admirably, Dr. Moore replied. That's crucial right now. How are you handling the questions? Age-appropriate truth. No details about the espionage or money laundering. Just that her mother and Mike made bad choices and have to face consequences. The prosecution's case proved airtight. Each piece of evidence had been meticulously documented, each witness statement corroborated, each financial transaction traced to its source. Your client faces multiple life sentences, Martinez told Mike's defense attorney. The classified information he sold compromised base security across 3 continents. He has nothing to bargain with. Foreign contacts, when confronted with the evidence, quickly turned against Mike. Anton Petrov's testimony proved particularly damaging. Mr. Mueller approached us, Petrov stated in his deposition. He said his partner's deployment gave him unlimited access to classified data. He offered a menu of information, base security protocols, personnel files, deployment schedules. All he wanted was money. Mercedes, realizing the depth of manipulation she'd fallen for, suffered a complete breakdown during her subsequent interrogation. I thought I was protecting Grace, she sobbed to her attorney. Mike said Clint's work put us at risk. He said we needed an escape plan. I didn't know about the classified information, about the foreign agents. I didn't know. But the evidence showed otherwise. Her signature on documents, her presence at meetings, her role in laundering the proceeds, all meticulously documented by Clint's team. The sophisticated real estate agent who had planned to steal his daughter had become an accessory to espionage against the country her husband had served. Chapter 8. Justice served. The federal courthouse's main courtroom fell silent as Judge Hamilton prepared to deliver Mike Mueller's sentence. The former military contractor stood rigid, his prison jumpsuit a stark contrast to his former polished appearance. Before I pass sentence, Judge Hamilton began, his voice carrying decades of judicial authority. Would you like to make a statement, Mr. Mueller? Mike stepped forward. Your Honor, I served this country faithfully for years. Everything I did was to protect. Stop. Judge Hamilton's command cut through the air. Do not compound your crimes with perjury. This court has reviewed extensive evidence of your systematic betrayal of the very nation you claim to serve. The judge lifted a document. The evidence proves beyond any doubt that you exploited your position to sell classified information while your business partner defended this country. You compromised military security for profit while pretending to be a patriot. Mike's attorney attempted one last intervention. Your Honor, my client is willing to provide valuable information about others. The prosecution has made it clear your client has nothing to offer. Judge Hamilton interrupted. Major Bentley's documentation gave them the entire network months ago. The judge straightened his papers. Michael Mueller, this court sentences you to 30 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 25 years. You will forfeit all assets gained through criminal activity. In the gallery, Agent Tanner nodded slightly. The sentence matched exactly what Clint had predicted months ago. Mercedes' sentencing followed the next day. She'd traded her designer wardrobe for prison garb, her carefully maintained appearance showing the strain of months in custody. Mrs. Bentley, Judge Hamilton began. While you may not have initiated this conspiracy, your willing participation enabled serious crimes against this nation. More disturbing is your calculated betrayal of your own family. The judge referenced his notes. You attempted to have your husband declared dead while he served his country. You planned to kidnap his child. You used your legitimate business to launder proceeds from espionage. Mercedes swayed slightly. Her attorney gripped her arm for support. This court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison. Furthermore, the judge's voice hardened. Given your willingness to use your daughter as a pawn in this conspiracy, you are hereby stripped of all parental rights. No supervised visitation will be permitted. Mercedes collapsed, her lawyer barely catching her. No, please, not Grace. I need to see my daughter. Remove the defendant, Judge Hamilton ordered. The security firm's restructuring began immediately after sentencing. Clint called an all-hands meeting at headquarters. Recent events have damaged our reputation, he addressed the assembled employees. That ends today. Contract, operation, decision will be transparent and accountable. He introduced new leadership, trusted veterans he'd served with. These men and women understand the responsibility we hold. Our clients trust us with national security. We will earn that trust daily. The FBI investigation, rather than destroying the firm, became its strongest selling point. Military clients appreciated Clint's role in exposing the espionage ring. Major Bentley demonstrated the highest standards of professional ethics, General Richards stated during a Pentagon contract review. His firm's new security protocols have become a model for the industry. Mike's appeals process proved futile. His new attorney found the evidence insurmountable. Your Honor, the appeals lawyer argued weakly, my client's previous service should be considered. His service makes his crimes worse, the appeals judge interrupted. He understood exactly what he was compromising. Sentence upheld. The firm's recovery exceeded projections. Clint's leadership style, direct, ethical, uncompromising, attracted high-level government contracts. Our security protocols are now industry-leading, he assured a panel of military officials. Every access to classified information is monitored, every transaction documented. What happened with Mueller cannot happen again. Sharon Bowers, who'd led the legal battle, observed the firm's transformation. You've turned their betrayal into a strength, she noted during a strategy meeting. Every client knows this firm caught a spy in its own ranks. They trust you more, not less. Chapter 9. Healing and Future. 2 years after the arrests, Clint sat in the school auditorium watching Grace's class play. Now 7, she moved across the stage with confidence, delivering her lines clearly. Her performance as the lead character drew proud smiles from the audience. Dr. Moore, seated beside him, observed professionally. Watch her interaction with the other children. No hesitation, no anxiety. The transformation is remarkable. Grace's academic progress matched her social development. Her second-grade teacher, Mrs. Anderson, shared glowing reports during parent conferences. She's reading 3 grades above level, Mrs. Anderson explained, displaying Grace's work. Her writing shows emotional maturity well beyond her years. The stability in her home life reflects in everything she does. The unexpected development in Clint's personal life emerged naturally through his professional relationship with Sharon Bowers. Their shared experiences created a foundation of understanding. You never asked about my own story, Sharon mentioned one evening, after reviewing case files in his office. Didn't need to, Clint replied, studying her expression. Saw it in how you handled the case. You understood what was at stake. My ex-husband was a Marine, Sharon offered. He came home from deployment different. Started drinking, gambling. Lost everything we'd built. I learned the hard way that loving someone in uniform requires strength. Their relationship developed with the same tactical precision they brought to their professional lives. Sharon approached Grace with careful consideration. I'm not trying to replace your mom, she told Grace during their first serious conversation. I'm just someone else who cares about you and your dad. Grace considered this with 7-year-old wisdom. Dad says you helped protect us when Mom and Mike were bad, and you make him smile more. The scandal's exposure led to congressional hearings on military contractor security. Clint's testimony helped shape new protocols. Gentlemen, he addressed the Senate committee. The greatest threats often come from trusted insiders. Every security system must account for betrayal from within. His experience became required study at military briefings. The Shadow's methods of documenting betrayal while maintaining operational security proved valuable beyond his personal situation. Grace's questions about her mother required careful handling. Each inquiry received age-appropriate honesty. Did Mom really try to steal me? She asked one evening during homework. Your mother made bad choices, Clint explained, setting aside her math book. But that doesn't change the fact that she loved you. Sometimes people we love still do wrong things and have to face consequences. The new family unit strengthened through shared experiences. Sharon's legal mind complemented Clint's tactical thinking, while her warmth helped Grace process complex emotions. Why do you read me different voices for each character? Grace asked Sharon during their nightly story time. Because every story has different perspectives, Sharon replied. Just like real life. Understanding different viewpoints helps us make better choices. The security firm expanded internationally, its reputation for integrity attracting premium clients. Clint's leadership style became legendary in the industry, direct, ethical, uncompromising. Each Christmas, they established new traditions. The tree decorating became a family project, each ornament selected with purpose and meaning. This one's from my first play, Grace explained, hanging a handmade star. And this one's from when Sharon moved in. The dark memories of that first Christmas Eve revelation transformed into a testament of survival and redemption. The shadow had emerged victorious not through mere revenge, but through the complete dismantling of those who had tried to destroy him. As Grace hung the star atop their latest Christmas tree, reaching it easily now that she'd grown taller, Clint reflected on the true nature of victory. It wasn't just about defeating enemies. It was about building something stronger from the ashes of betrayal. The retired Special Forces operator had fought his hardest battle on home soil. In winning, he had secured not just revenge, but redemption. He'd created a future where his daughter could grow strong and safe, protected by a love that no betrayal could shake. Epilogue. 10 years later, Michael Mueller stared at the concrete walls of his federal prison cell, the same view he'd had for the past decade. His once muscular frame had withered, his confident demeanor replaced by the hollow-eyed look of a man who'd lost everything. 10 years into his 30-year sentence, he'd exhausted appeal, attempt to reduce his time. Prisoner Mueller, the guard announced, your legal representative is here. The prison's meeting room felt cavernous. His court-appointed attorney, different from the expensive lawyers he'd once retained, placed a thick folder on the table. Your latest appeal has been denied, she stated flatly. The evidence Major Bentley provided remains irrefutable. The court won't consider any further appeals without new evidence. Mike slumped in his chair. 15 more years minimum before any chance of parole. The foreign contacts he'd sold classified information to had long abandoned him. His testimony against other contractors had earned him nothing but enemies within the prison system. Across the state, in a different federal facility, Mercedes Dillon served the final months of her 8-year sentence. The former real estate agent's designer clothes and perfect makeup had been replaced by prison uniforms and tired eyes. Her attempts to maintain contact with Grace through letters had all been returned unopened, her parental rights permanently revoked by the court. Inmate Dillon, her caseworker reviewed her file. Your release is scheduled for next month. Have you secured housing and employment? Mercedes nodded. Her brother had offered her a small apartment above his garage in Montana, as far from her old life as possible. A local real estate office had agreed to hire her as a receptionist, the only position her felony conviction would allow. You understand the terms of your release, the caseworker continued. No contact with your daughter. No return to your former state without permission. No communication with Michael Mueller or any former business associates. The world had moved on without them. Clint and Sharon's security consulting firm had become an industry leader, their reputation for integrity attracting international clients. Their new headquarters building downtown stood as a testament to their success. The Mueller-Bentley case is now mandatory study at the FBI Academy, Agent Tanner explained to a class of recruits. It demonstrates how personal betrayal can escalate to national security threats. Major Bentley's documentation methods have become standard procedure for internal investigations. Grace, now 15, had blossomed into a confident young woman. Her academic achievements and leadership roles reflected the stable environment Clint and Sharon had created. The trauma of her early years had been transformed into resilience through careful therapy and unwavering support. Mom tried to contact me again, Grace mentioned during dinner one evening. Another letter through her brother. What do you want to do about it? Clint asked, maintaining the open communication they'd established. Nothing, Grace replied firmly. I have my family right here. Sharon had officially adopted Grace 2 years after marrying Clint. Their home life provided the stability that helped Grace process her mother's betrayal without being defined by it. Dr. Moore still consulted with military families, often citing Grace's case as an example of successful recovery from parental betrayal. The key was her father's consistency, she explained during professional conferences. He never demonized her mother, but never sugarcoated the reality of what happened. The consequences of Mike and Mercedes' betrayal rippled through their former social circles. The church community that had once embraced Mercedes now used her story as a cautionary tale. Their former friends had chosen sides long ago, most rallying around Clint after the extent of the betrayal became known. Mike's former business partners had rebuilt their careers elsewhere, the taint of association with his espionage scandal following them. Some had cooperated with federal investigators, trading information for immunity. Others had retired early, choosing to fade from public view. Victoria Pitts, the family lawyer who had helped Mercedes with her fraudulent documents, had been disbarred. Her role in the conspiracy had destroyed her legal career, reducing her to paralegal work in a small firm across the country. Dr. Lawrence Reed, the therapist who had supported Mercedes' false narrative about Clint's PTSD, lost his license to practice. His professional reputation never recovered from his involvement in the attempted custody fraud. The security firm's success had allowed Clint to create a foundation supporting military families, particularly children affected by deployment-related family issues. The program provided counseling, educational support, and stability during family crises. The Shadow Foundation has helped hundreds of military kids, Sharon reported during a board meeting. We're expanding to 3 new bases next year. Their marriage had strengthened through shared purpose. Sharon's legal expertise complemented Clint's tactical approach, while her understanding of military life made her an ideal partner. Together, they'd built something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. Colonel Barry McGee, now retired, occasionally consulted for their firm. Clint turned personal tragedy into a force for positive change, he noted. The security protocols we developed after the Mueller case have prevented similar infiltrations across the defense industry. Drew Patterson, the private investigator who had tried to fabricate evidence against Clint, had found his own career destroyed. His reputation for manufacturing evidence had been exposed, leading to multiple investigations of his past cases. The federal prosecutor, Catherine Martinez, had used the case to launch a successful career specializing in military contractor fraud. The Mueller case showed us how personal betrayal often connects to larger security threats, she explained to colleagues. Agent Tanner had been promoted to lead the FBI's Contractor Security Division, implementing many of the lessons learned from the case. His team regularly consulted with Clint's firm on new security protocols. The former neighbors who had witnessed the betrayal unfold had their own perspectives on the decades since. Diane Ball, who had first seen Clint return that Christmas Eve, still lived across the street. It's like watching 2 different movies, she reflected. The tragedy that happened then, and the success story now. Clint and Sharon proved that doing things right matters more than getting even. Mike's prison routine remained unchanged. Each day, he watched younger inmates arrive, sharing their stories of betrayal and consequences. Some asked about his case, having studied it in criminal justice classes or military briefings. I had everything, he told a young former contractor serving time for similar crimes. A successful business, a best friend's trust, respect in the community. I threw it all away for money and another man's wife. Mercedes' release would return her to a world that had no place for her. Her real estate license permanently revoked, her social connections destroyed, her own daughter legally forbidden from contact. The sophisticated life she tried to steal had been replaced by a small room above a garage in Montana. The hardest part, she confided to her prison counselor, is knowing Grace will grow up without me. But I did that. I chose that when I helped Mike betray her father. Grace's success stood as a testament to resilience and proper parenting. Her school achievements, athletic involvement, and strong moral compass reflected Clint and Sharon's guidance. The confused 5-year-old who had innocently revealed her mother's betrayal had grown into a young woman who understood the importance of loyalty and truth. Dad and Sharon taught me that bad choices have consequences, she explained to her high school psychology class during a presentation on family dynamics. But they also showed me that you can build something good from bad experiences. The Shadow's reputation had evolved. While still known for ruthless efficiency in business, Clint had become equally respected for ethical leadership and support of military families. He had transformed personal vengeance into systemic improvement, using his experience to prevent similar betrayals. Their Christmas traditions continued, each year adding new ornaments representing family milestones. The star Grace had made in her first school play still topped the tree, a reminder of how far they'd come from that first Christmas Eve revelation. Mike and Mercedes' betrayal had failed to destroy what they'd targeted. Instead, it had led to a stronger family, a more secure company, and improved protections for military personnel and their children. The consequences they faced served as a warning, while the family they tried to destroy demonstrated the power of integrity and resilience. The Shadow had emerged not just victorious, but transformative. The darkness of betrayal had been turned into light, illuminating a better path forward for military families facing similar challenges. In the end, the greatest revenge wasn't the punishment of enemies, but the creation of something stronger than what they had tried to destroy. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see